Hey, what's up? It's Kit. Time for another video. Today, we talk about something that I should have actually spoken about. I should have a long time ago, before we actually started with this whole series of videos that talk about combos and stuff, because it helps you understand a lot of things. And my bad. When I realized this, it was actually kind of like a slap in the face, a huge slap in the face, because I realized that, oh, I might be using terms that a lot of people kind of don't have an idea, or a lot don't realize, especially since we're actually making these videos for guys that are starting out. It's like 101 videos. And it might be that a lot of people don't understand, so, oh my gosh. I am so sorry for that. Apologize, and hopefully this actually shed some light. And for those that have these pieces of equipment, especially the reels, because remember, the reel is the heaviest part of this whole thing. You have sensitivity, balance, feel, the longevity of your fishing trip depends on the weight of your fishing system that you're holding. And guess what? That sort of thing dictates exactly how many casts you can make. It's not just the feel of the rod. So, it's not just your effort, because this is literally the most heaviest part of the system. It's not just your lure. It's this, more than like, take for example, for this particular thing, this is like literally more than half a kilo, right? Probably closer to 1 kilo. And on the other end, the biggest lure that I can ever throw with my rod, let's say for this particular one, would be a 200 gram. So a fraction of this. And even with the resistance it creates when it goes through the water, this is literally the most weight that I am going to be stressing my body with. So yes, it matters a lot. Now, we need to understand the materials that the bodies of the reels are made with, because they are the ones that dictate the overall weight of the reel. All right, so there's plastic, there is composite, there's magnesium, aluminum, and the combination of any of these. All right, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we proceed, if you're new to this channel talks about the hows and whys of fishing. We cover everything from big game, ultralight, everything in the middle, including fly fishing. And today we're talking of the materials that the reels bodies are made of. This is very important, because for each type of fishing that you do, there is an optimum type of reel for you and your type of fishing. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. So plastic, no, just go. Plastic would be like the cheapest stuff. Now, if I go to Chinatown and look at the reels for the cheapest reels I could find, no matter how good they look on the shelf, you pick it up, it's plastic. There's no such thing as a good plastic reel. All right, so these reels won't last long. The plastic is actually flimsy, and when you catch a fish, you'll feel it. Now, what are they good for? Well, take for example, if you want something that's kind of throwaway, if you want something to give to like a child that's like under 5 years old, because you know that they're gonna break it, yeah, okay, get those. They're more like toys, I would say. And if you're serious about your fishing, you seriously need to stay away from plastic reels. They're just no bueno. They're not good. They're a waste of money. They're a waste of time. They're a waste of space. Plastic reels, no. All right, so if you're buying strictly like a toy, then go ahead, but still, not something that I would recommend. All right, so stay away from plastics. Now, the second level on top of that would be composite. So let's talk about the standards. We have Shimano and we have Daiwa. Daiwa, their proprietary, what do you call this? Their proprietary composite material is called Zion. I happen to have a good example here, and this is the 22 Caldia LT 2500. This body is made of Zion, and Zion is actually a composite, which is like, a fancy word for plastic, but they have some metal mixed in, which gives it rigidity. Okay. Plus, the way they do this is that this whole thing is one piece. So they call it MQ, or a monocoque body. You know what else has a monocoque body? F1 cars. So they got the idea from F1 cars. Basically a single piece frame. That's what it is. All right. Now, Daiwa has Zion. Shimano has what's called CI4. Okay, so carbon fiber. All right. So between these two, these are the technologies that they use for their reels. So a very good example would be the Caldia. And then for Shimano, you have the Vanford. Okay, so the Vanford is made out of CI4. In fact, before the Vanford, it was actually called the Stratic CI4. And then they rebranded it after a while because it was a very difficult distinction between a Stratic and the Vanford. So they actually, they created the Vanford because there was like a very difficult, it was kind of difficult to distinguish like a Stratic and a Stratic CI4. So they had to kind of split it in two, and the Stratic CI4 became the Vanford. Okay. Aluminum. All right. So aluminum reels, here's some good examples. Okay. So Stratic, and I always recommend to buy at least a Stratic. Stella, of course. And then you have the Twin Power XT, and you have the Sustain. A lot of really good reels actually use the what do you call this, the aluminums. All right, so they're a bit heavy for their purpose. I think this is a CI4 right here, and this is the Soare. Okay, so this is CI4. So I do have an example. I just noticed that. So CI4, so composite and all that. Very, very good reel as well. I've had that for years. Really good, light, and for what it is, for what I'm using it for, really good. And then we have Magnesium. This is a very good example. This is the Vanquish. Another reel that has Magnesium from the Shimano line would be the Exsence. And I think their Stella's also made with Magnesium. Magnesium is metal. Okay, it's metal, and you'll know it. It's kind of weird, but you take it, you put it on your chin. If it's cold, it's metal. All right, now you take the plastic, you put it here, and it's not cold. Plastic or composite. So that's the easiest way you could tell, aside from the weight. Okay, so the lightest metal bodied reels are made with Magnesium. That's a very, very important detail. Now that we have spoken about the materials that the bodies are made for, there's by the way, there was one. I don't know if it's still available. It was from Okuma. I think it was called the Okuma Trio or something like that. Hold on. You know what? Let's look it up. Okuma Trio. Yeah, there it is, the Okuma Trio. So what it is like it had like an aluminum frame, and it had like composite parts. man, it was such a bad idea. It's a fucking piece of shit. Like Okuma in general, they come up with like really good concepts, but the execution is so bad, and that continues still today. Actually, Okumas are actually like there are some good reels. I wouldn't say that their top end is actually like really good or at par with the top end of Shimano. There are some good reels with Okuma, but I wouldn't actually buy into the brand. I used to use Okuma a lot in the earlier days, and then I found that they broke down too much. So, again, you couldn't really call it a standard. I know that a lot of people in the States are using Okuma, but gosh, okay. If it works for you, then great. But for me, in my experience, and I've used a lot of reels, guys, I'll stick with the standards as far as spinning reels are concerned. So that's Shimano and Daiwa. All right. So I have Daiwa reels. I have Shimano reels. There are some reels from Daiwa. Like take for example, for this particular one, I couldn't find a slow Shimano reel in this size. So I looked at Daiwa. I found this, and I've been happy since. But what we're talking about today is the use for these reels. So plastic, don't go there. Okay. Now, if you want something very sensitive, you look at composites. They will give you the most sensitivity. However, I wouldn't recommend anything composite that's past the size of 3000. Okay. Now, when you look, this is a 4000 size reel. Okay. So what happens is that you're going to be dealing with thicker line when it comes to like these bigger reels, because medium action and already towards like bigger fish and stuff. So what's going to happen is when you're using this reel, the line passes through here to the stripper guide and all that, and when your drag is set and then a bigger fish strikes, the rotor, okay, the roller specifically, will have a lot of pressure. The most pressure is when the fish is running and your bail is there, okay, and it will pull hard on the the drag, right? So what happens is that there's pressure on the spool, and it's pressure going up to this bend. And what happens is this part of the reel, this whole part actually bends up. On a composite reel or plastic reel, what happens is that once this part bends, the gear shaft here applies pressure on the main gear and the pinion. And those are the ones that drive the reeling of the reel. And if there's a little misalignment, either you cannot reel or you will break the gears. And this is why I believe you stop at 3000 when it comes to composites. Now, this is a 2000 size reel. It says 2000, but it's actually more of like 1000 size. Okay, so the drag pressure that this gets from me, especially with the line I put in here, is minuscule. It's not going to hurt the reel. Okay, it's the same as this one with the 2500. It could be as big. It's actually as big as a 3000, isn't it? It's just the spool size. But with this, okay, the drag on the line, because it's light line, it's not going to be great. And even if it does put a little bit of pressure there, because this body, this composite body, has metal mixed in with it, guess what? It's actually quite rigid. Now, the reason why I chose this is actually because if you dig on YouTube, there's a guy that tested this with a motorcycle. He put line and then attached it to the motorcycle and then compared the flex of the Zion frame with one that's made of CI4. And guess what? The one in CI4 actually had a bend. And which leads me to believe that as far as the design of the monocoque body is concerned and the Zion material, it is more rigid. It is more rigid than, say, a CI4. Okay? So when I saw that, I was like, okay, I want that reel. And this is how I got in possession of this reel right here. Very, very dope. Now, next tier to that, when it comes to lightness, is Magnesium. All right, so the Vanquish Exsence from Shimano. I don't know about Daiwa. Maybe they have it, maybe not. But Magnesium bodied reels, such as the Vanquish Exsence and some Stellas, the smaller models, okay, have magnesium bodies. Magnesium is lighter than aluminum. In fact, if you put this reel in its box, you would think the box is empty. And somehow the box is, it feels heavier than the reel. Okay, this is an old model Vanquish. But until this day, it's easily one of the lightest reels I have. In fact, this is probably newer than this model. And guess what? This is heavier. But then again, this has an aluminum body. So easily, out of all my reels, this is my lightest metal-bodied reel. Now, you have reels that are also light, such as this, that are made of aluminum. So Shimano has engineered the reel in such a way that it's not heavy, even if it is made out of aluminum. And this three, okay, are part of a series of reels that are called Magnum Light. So you'll find that it says Magnum Light in the rotor right there. Okay, it's the same thing as this. There we go. And the same thing as this. Here we go. It says MGL. Okay, so reels in the MGL or Magnum Light series are metal, well, they're not all metal bodies, because guess what? The Vanford is actually in this series, but you'll find that the rotor is actually made out of composite material. And then you'll have reels that are labeled Core Protect, and these are heavier reels. Okay, the rotors are maybe made out of aluminum, which makes them a bit heavier, but they're also more protected when it comes to salt water intrusion. It doesn't mean to say that you know, these reels are not, but the Core Protect technology that the company put on this, like Shimano, or it's also called X Protect, but there's Core Protect and X Protect, which is like basically the same technology. But the technology that they put in on this basically helps with the salt water intrusion. So the heaviest reels, of course, are made out of aluminum. Sorry, the heaviest duty reels are made out of aluminum. This gives it a very robust body, and they are made for tough, extreme salt water fishing disciplines. Could be like you know, for jigging, could be for casting, for very strong, heavy fish. So those are it. Okay, now which is which? Now, as I explained, stuff like the Stella, reels like the Stella Saltiga, they're on top of the apex, and these are used for fish like GT, tuna, yellowtail. This is your reel right here. Big stuff, all right? Now, when it comes to medium tackle, you have a choice with a lot of, actually, Twin Powers, Stellas, Stradics. I always recommend for people to buy at least a Stradic, because guess what? This is where decent reels start, okay? And I picked the Stradic more than the Saragosa. Easier on the pockets, and guess what? It's just a few bearings down. You know, as far as performance is concerned, this takes the cake. In fact, I only have one Saragosa, or maybe not, but I'd rather buy a Stradic. Okay, so Stradix for me, right there. And guess what? I have a really good relationship with Shimano, and I can get the reels either free or well, I used to get them free. Okay, so but right, but despite that, I still choose stuff like the Stradic, Twin Power, Stellas, and all that, instead of actually choosing something like a Vanford. Okay, before it was actually called the Stradic CI4. Okay, now for the lighter stuff, okay, I would recommend not going over the 3000 size for composites. The reason being is the flex, as I explained earlier. So 4000 size reel, you're already dealing with thicker line, but with the smaller lines that you use on the 3000 or thinner lines that you use at the 3000 and below, 500 even. Okay, so you have 500s, you have 1000s, 2000s, 25s, and 3000s. For that whole range, you could use composites. And if you're fishing for well, even bigger fish with light line, that's totally fine. But as soon as you use heavier drags and thicker line, stay away from composites because they will flex. And when it flexes, your gear's in danger, and trust me, you're not going to have a really good day. Now, aluminum bodied reels such as these, and these are still light, okay, are very good for all sizes. It could be the 500s all the way to like the big stuff. Aluminum is always good. Okay, it gives you a rigid body, keeps all the gears aligned, and gives you an overall better experience. The problem is it might get a bit too heavy for some applications. If you want sensitivity that the composite bodies give you with the rigidity of a metal body, then you are looking for something like this. This is again a Vanquish. The Exsence has the same magnesium body or same material, and some of the Stellas, the Stella FKs, they have magnesium bodies. So metal keeps the gears aligned, very worry free. Very obviously with that comes a smooth drag because it doesn't bend. And again, even with light line, these are great. And you can cast the whole day with these. I really recommend something like this. And if you actually have something like this, you pair it with a very light rod, that's the only time you would actually realize the potential of these things. Now, if you pair this with a heavier rod, you'd find it kind of strange. But with the lighter new generation rods, like take for example, there's the the top end Yamaga rods and stuff like that, Ripple Fishers, sea bass rods, balances really well with this, as well as the 5G rods from Major Craft balance really well with magnesium reels. So again, or actually with Magnum light reels, even Vanfords and stuff. But if you want something really light and metal to keep the gears aligned so that you don't have to worry about, gear misalignment and stuff like that, this is it. So basically, this is what I got it for. I bought this with the mind that I don't want to use composite reels just in case I hook into something big and I have to like crank the drag. Boom. There we go. And I've never looked for anything since. And guess what? This is an old reel. I haven't upgraded it yet. It is that good. Alrighty. So that's it. Hopefully this whole video gives you an idea of exactly what materials are in the reels. Again, we have plastic, which we don't really want. You have composites, CI4 and Zion from Daiwa. Both are good, just as long as you don't go over the 3000 size. You have aluminum, which is available in all sizes. And for some of them, it could be that they're on the heavy side. So if you are more concerned with sensitivity, an aluminum body such as like Stradic might be a bit heavy for some applications that you would want to do. In which case, I'm recommending something made out of magnesium. So you have Vanquish, Exsence, and some Stellas. And when you get something like this, it's already pretty good. Now, there are some reels from Shimano that have the marking Magnum Light that are a compromise between like a full heavy reel. But these are somewhat light, and they're in the Magnum Light series. So Sustain, Twin Power XD is part of it, and Vanford is also part of that. And again, just as long as you're looking at something that's below 3,000 in size, 3,000 and below, aluminum, such as these reels that have Magnum Light on them, are pretty good. Composites will give you more sensitivity. Again, very light. As long as it's 3,000 and below, really good, highly recommended. And for all other stuff, get aluminum, at least a Stradic, guys. That's it. Even with the 1,000, I have a 1,000 size of this. I have a 3,000. This is a 5,000. I also have a 4,000. So as far as Stradics are concerned, they're really good reels, very good value for the money. So get at least a Stradic or its Daiwa equivalent. Alrighty. For all around fishing, really. And I use this a lot for casting, you know. It's a very good all around reel. All right. So at least a Stradic. On the top of the heap, you have Stellas for heavy duty stuff. Saltigas, obviously, are really good as well. Same level. And Vanquish for like the very light metal bodied reels. I'm sure Daiwa has its own equivalent of this. Alrighty, that's it for this video. If you haven't yet, subscribe, like if you've learned something, and share this video for those guys that you think would benefit them. Because understanding like this whole thing, what I've just explained right now, really opens up a lot of doors, and it shows you, or hopefully it has been able to explain to you why some reels perform better at some roles than others. You know, it could be that it's just too heavy, you know, it doesn't feel right, balance right with the rod that you have. And ideally, you'd have an idea of these, you know, core things. And when you next go to a shop, you could just pick up a reel, pair it with a rod, and see exactly if it feels good in your hands, balances correctly in your hands and stuff. And yeah, it gives you an idea, so that you don't have to rely on the staff to tell you exactly what happens, because guys, they're in to sell, remember, you know. And each and every single time you make a mistake, it's money, because you're gonna have to go back and buy something else. Alrighty, so that's it. Thanks so much for watching. And before we part ways, I'd like to thank the members. And the members obviously support me directly, support this channel directly, and help this channel move forward. So if you want, only if you want, click on that membership button. Alrighty, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Class is missed.